So how does a new truck driver become an owner-operator? I get asked so many questions just like this, similar to this, and relating to this. So in this video, I'm gonna try to answer them all. So how do I become an owner-operator? What truck should I buy? Should I go flatbed? I get so many questions just like this, but the best place to start, why would you become an owner-operator? Well, let's answer the obvious one first. It's better pay. Give yourself a raise. Is it more headache? Sure, but it's absolutely worth it. When you get a career or a job in some other industry, you're always trying to work your way up the ladder. Why would you not do the same here? I mean, sure, you can get comfortable at a company position, you can work your way up kind of through the company ranks, get to those better loads, and you don't have to deal with the headaches. But there's so many other perks to being an owner-operator that why not take advantage of those? And better pay is certainly one of those, and especially if you're good with your finances, which we'll get into later in the video, of course. You're also going to get a lot more home time. And this is going to be relative. Sure, there are some company jobs out there where you're going to get a great amount of home time. You know, you put in your time, you put in the effort, and you can work your way up to those good routes, those nice dedicated routes where you're more on a schedule and you get home more often. But as an owner-operator, you can get home anytime that you want. You can be home at any time that you want. You're always going to be home for holidays if you like. You're not going to miss any more birthdays. And of course, this is once you set yourself up properly, but you always have the option to just take off, empty or loaded, because it's your truck. So take advantage of that as a new owner-operator as well. There are better loads. Yes, there are better loads. And once again, this is going to be relative for all you guys out there that take everything so literally. But for the majority of the loads that we haul, they're much better loads because we don't deal with a lot of the large accounts. Now, will you from time to time? Sure. And you can pick and choose which of those large accounts that you want to deal with. Like, let's say there's a DC in Texas that, you know, loads or unloads faster than a DC in Missouri. Well, you just don't go to the Missouri one because it's your choice. You just have so much more control as an owner-operator. And you can decide how much weight you want to haul. You can decide if you want to tarp or not if you're a flatbed guy, which I don't know if you've noticed, but I haven't exactly been tarping a lot lately. Not a fan. But the ability to choose better loads or more specifically what loads you like to run is a huge, huge benefit. And you can expedite your time and actually enjoy the process. Moving along, how should new truck drivers become owner-operators? This is kind of over 9 years of experience, you know, trial and error, successes and failures, talking to other people. I've kind of mashed it all together for you in this video, so I hope you enjoy this. If you get some value out of this, please click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you know when the next videos are coming out. But first thing that you have to do is you got to get experience. This is an experience-based industry. And yes, even though you are becoming an owner-operator, you're becoming a business owner, it's going to be your truck, there's a lot of things that you need to get experience with. And one of the most important things, and I know this may seem obvious, but actually driving the truck. It takes a while to properly learn how to drive the truck. Are some people going to be more skilled or have more talent than others at driving the truck? Sure. It's going to come a lot easier to some people than it is to others, but regardless of how talented you are, you still have to increase your skill base. Realistically, I didn't feel extremely comfortable, and I mean extremely comfortable, until about the third year. Even in the second year, there were some situations that would arise where just the comfort wasn't quite there. So don't overlook the experience needed to learn how to drive the truck. And while you're gaining that experience, there's a couple things that you need to be doing along the way. We're gonna start with get a financial education. How many times have I said that on this channel? I don't know, but I can't say it enough. It's so important. It's so important to give yourself a financial education. What does that mean, Brian? Well, you need to learn about money. You need to learn how to save. You need to learn how to spend. You need to learn where to spend, where it makes sense to spend. A good place to get that financial education, and it's not that expensive to go through it, is Dave Ramsey's course. And while maybe I don't agree with everything that he says, you don't have to. If you go through the course, he's gonna teach you the basics. And by the way, certainly not sponsored by Dave Ramsey or anything like that, but it's going to give you the base knowledge that you need in order to succeed. And speaking of sponsorship, this video is sponsored, and I want to give a thanks to Shell Rotella. I have switched to T6 full synthetic blend 15W40 thanks to them. And I'm very glad that I did it. You know, this ties in with the saving money. I just recently did a preventative maintenance service, or in layman's terms, an oil change. And I was doing my calculations, and the manufacturer suggests that I do my oil changes on this engine every 30,000 miles. And before, when I was using just a regular oil, I was doing them at about 12,000. So you can see that I'm getting almost 3 times the length of time on my preventative maintenance services. And that's because the synthetic blend it's great. It's much better than the regular oils. And for me personally, I'm saving money on the 3 PMs versus the 1 PM, as well as, in my experience, I'm getting better fuel mileage, and also there's less wear and tear on my truck. My truck is running a lot smoother, which I absolutely love. So thank you so much to Shell Rotella for that. So let's revisit this whole money thing. How much do you need to save? And the answer, when I get to it, is actually going to be probably a lot larger than what you think it is. Reason being, when you buy a truck, I don't recommend buying a brand new truck, first of all. The reason I don't recommend buying a brand new truck is because that payment is going to be extremely high. Now, if you're able to save a very large down payment, like let's say $100,000, well then by all means go buy a new truck. You know, that's going to be the best thing. It's going to be under warranty. You're probably not going to have issue with it. That's not to say you won't, but you probably won't. So it's going to treat you a little bit better. You're going to be out of the shop a little longer. The only issue with that is when you are in the shop, you're dealing with warranty. And when you have a warranty issue, the shops tend to take just a little bit extra time on those warranty issues because they don't get paid as much. But I don't recommend that, because if you jump into a massive truck payment, you're putting a lot of stress, a lot of strain on the finances of the business, creating high overhead, which you don't even know how to be profitable as an owner-operator yet. So I don't recommend doing that. But what I do recommend is buying kind of the middle-of-the-road truck, or a very old truck that does not have a DPF system on it. DPF system meaning it uses DEF. If you can avoid that, your maintenance cost is going to be a lot lower on that area, and the DEF, or excuse me, the DPF area of maintenance is extremely high. Even though it's an older truck and just naturally the maintenance is going to be a little bit higher, you're going to come out way ahead, because these DPF issues, well, they suck. So try to avoid those. But if you can't pay $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 for a truck, then get yourself a middle of the road truck. And if you just stay on top of your maintenance, if you're very good at preventative maintenance, which I did a video about that, I'll link that right up there, then you're gonna be able to keep yourself moving, you're gonna be able to keep yourself going down the road. And that's the most important thing. You have to learn how to be profitable as an owner-operator. And guess what? That's a learning curve, just like learning to drive the truck. You don't wanna jump in too early. You're still learning how to drive the truck. You're unsure of really and truly how to do the job, and you're trying to be a business owner, taking care of all the maintenance on the truck. It's a lot to throw at yourself. Are there people out there that have done it? Sure. Can it be done? Sure. Is it recommended? Absolutely not. So get yourself kind of a middle of the road truck, and As far as down payments are concerned, you're gonna need probably about 20%. And if your credit's in a little bit of an iffy range, you're looking at about 30 to 40%. So on an $80,000 truck, which is a good solid truck, it's not gonna be too high mileage, it's not gonna need too terribly much work. That's, every 10% is $8,000, so you can do the math on that. It adds up very quickly, and it's a pretty good number, but you not only need a down payment, you also need kind of a bankroll, or you need a maintenance fund. And this maintenance fund, you're always gonna add to that. Being an owner-operator, that should be something that comes out every single week, or however it is that you get paid. But that's the first place that you're gonna add money to, because if the truck breaks down, you're no longer making income. So that's the first place that you wanna add money to when you're getting paid, but you also want to have that nest egg built before you even buy the truck. Now, in this example, I'm talking about leasing onto a carrier, which I'll get into later in the video, but if you're getting your own numbers, that nest egg number skyrockets. And I'm talking, it gets into the six figures. Can you get away with it without having that six-figure nest egg? Sure, but you're setting yourself up for failure. It can be done, but you don't want to run a business like that. You don't want to operate a business like that. If you took that business plan to a bank, they would not give you a loan because you'd be extremely high risk. But having that maintenance, the best way to look at it, and the ideal amount of money that you would have, is if you add up all of your personal bills, you have 3 months of personal bills, and then on top of that, you have $15,000 saved. Injectors on my Cummins, I have a 2012 ISX Cummins, injectors alone are roughly $10,000. So if those happen to go out in the first week, the second week, which guess what, can easily happen, even though you just bought this truck from a lot, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do if you have to throw 10? What are you gonna do if you have to throw 20? What are you gonna do if, Carrie, who's on her phone, she's texting, and she happens to slide over and slide into your truck? And then you're down for 2 weeks, you gotta get it replaced. Sure, insurance is gonna cover it, but a lot of times it's faster for you to come out of pocket and then get reimbursed by the insurance company. Work smarter, not harder. So money is huge, and it takes a lot more than what you think it does. And also a little side note. You can do all of your calculations. You can add everything up that you want to. You can say, I'm gonna run 3,000 miles a week, and I'm gonna make $3 a mile, and I'm gonna run that every single week, and everything's gonna be gravy. It's not. I'm sitting in California right now. I'm on 4 days of downtime, and the next load that I'm gonna be running is gonna be pushed back to my next paycheck. Now, in the end, I'm gonna come out just a little bit ahead. We don't have to get into all of that, but things happen out here, and it happens all the time. So you have to be prepared for that. You can't plan for the best. If you plan for the worst and you succeed at the worst, well, there's only one way you can go, and that's up. So do so. So moving into buying a truck, I've done several videos on this channel about specifically this topic because it's a very large topic. I have a playlist that I'm putting together, and I'm gonna put together all of my buying truck videos, and I'll link that right up there. But for now, I'm gonna give you kind of just the basics really quickly. The first place that you wanna start when buying a truck is the application. And this is something that you should be figuring out while getting your experience. While getting your experience, do you like physical labor? If so, maybe flatbed or step deck or anything open platform is gonna be good for you. If you don't like that, do you like making a lot of money, but you're not, you're okay if you miss some sleep here or there? Go reefer. Reefer is great for money. You make a lot of money, especially as an owner-operator, but your sleep schedule and your running times and your delivery appointments, they're kind of jacked. So you have to understand, I like my sleep. That's why I pull a step deck. And then you have, regular dry box, and there's nothing wrong with dry box. You can make a great amount of money. It's probably considered the least amount of work, but there are some drawbacks to that as well. you need to learn what it is that you want to do. And once you figure that out, that's when you start figuring out what truck is going to work better for that application. Look back at my truck. You see how it's a mid-roof? At least it is now. I had the little dome taken off. Well, you don't want a mid-roof pulling a dry box, because here's the roof and here's the square windbreaker that you've got going on, and it's gonna decrease your fuel mileage. So look for the application of the truck and then tailor the build of the truck, or at least the specifics that you're looking for, towards the application. The application's also going to include, where do you like to run? Do you like to run in the Northwest? Do you want to stay on flat land? Do you want to run I-10 east and west all day long? All of these different applications require different specifications for the truck and the engine. So you have to be aware of all of these things. It takes very little research to figure out what it is that's actually needed. So I'm not going to go into specifics, but figure all of that out, and that's going to point you in the direction. That's where you should start searching for a truck. And then you need to go into looking at your personal finances. You need to figure out what kind of truck payment you can afford. And for the first truck payment, I mean, if you can get it down to $1,000, that's great. That's very difficult to do, though. It's going to take a pretty healthy down payment. If you're in about the $1,500 to $2,000 range, that's an average truck payment. Once you start getting above that $2,000, that's when it's starting to get a little iffy. Now, if you have zero personal bills, then you can obviously afford a little bit more. It's going to be different for every person, so I can't tell you what's the best truck payment. All I can do is point you in the right direction. But figure out what truck payment that you can afford comfortably that's still going to allow you to put away a very healthy chunk of maintenance money every single paycheck, every single week. Once you figure out the application for the truck, so the specifications, then you figure out what kind of payment you can afford. That's when you need to start looking at the right companies to work for. There's a ton of companies out there. You only hear about kind of the larger ones because you see their trucks everywhere. You know, and I happen to work for one. I work for Landstar. I work for Landstar because the area that I live in, it's best for me to work for Landstar. They have the best routes coming out of there that pay the best. And then kind of across the United States, they have a lot of dedicated freight. That's all that I try to run, is dedicated freight, because it pays the best. So it's what works for me in my region. And when you're looking at the right companies to work for, that's going to play a huge role. Is the region, most likely where they started that company, is where the majority of their customers or their dedicated freight is going to be. And if you look at the smaller companies, the smaller local companies, a lot of times the way that they operate is they have, you know, they kind of have a few customers in their home area. And so you're going to be running dedicated freight out. And then from that point, then you're going to be running spot market freight, which is like the DAT load board or truckstop.com. Then you're going to be running a spot load back. That's generally how they work. They don't all work that way. Some of them just run the spot market, which is fine, but you're going to do better if you can find a business or a trucking company that actually has that dedicated freight. So be looking for that. Those are the best places to sign on to. And if you're newer, like let's say you kind of rush the process a little bit, so after your first year, you're going to go ahead and buy a truck, you're probably going to go with a larger company because they're going to have a lot bigger discounts. I get some of the best discounts on my insurance and on my fuel. And it's because we have over 10,000 trucks at Landstar. So Landstar is a great fit for me. It's a great fit for anyone. And especially if you're thinking about kind of getting your own authority down the road, Landstar kind of gives you the most rope, so to speak, to hang yourself. You do more with Landstar than you do at most companies. Not all, of course, but most. But look at these different companies, look at that dedicated freight, and that'll help you make a more educated decision. And from this point, whenever you figure out which company you're going to go with, it's time to buy the truck. So, you're not going to take that truck and immediately drive it straight to the company. Newsflash. what you're gonna need to do is you're gonna need to make that truck road ready. And this can mean a lot of different things. It kind of depends on where you buy the truck. If you buy the truck from, let's say, an owner-operator, which I highly, highly recommend, then you're probably gonna need to do some things to make it road ready. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you're gonna get the best feel for the truck if you buy from an owner-operator versus, one of these sales companies. The owner-operator is gonna be able to tell you the intricacies of that truck. He's gonna be able to tell you these are the problems that you need to look out for, because guess what? They all have problems. But if you know which problems you need to be keeping an eye on, then you're gonna be able to keep it on the road and making money more or longer. So I highly recommend buying from an owner-operator if at all possible. But if not, some of these companies, these dealerships are just fine. But make sure you take that truck to a mechanic that knows what he's doing and does a thorough check of the truck. That way you know what it is that you're buying. So you have an idea of, when XYZ are gonna go out on the truck. Also gives you an idea of how much money you need in your nest egg. You see how it all kind of ties together here at the end? Well, once you buy your truck, you gotta make it road ready. And you don't wanna be doing all of this maintenance, all of this work out on the road. You wanna be doing these things at home. You want to find a mechanic around your home area that really knows what he's doing, and preferably somebody that works for themselves so that way you don't get charged an arm and a leg. These shop rates can get astronomical. I've seen them well over $200 an hour. That's not really conducive to keeping a lot of money, saving a lot of money, and making a lot of money, because the name of the game in being an owner-operator is keeping the most money. It's not necessarily about making the most money. So get that one through your head, but find a great mechanic in your local area that you can call your mechanic and get that truck road ready. Do the things that he recommends that you do now, and some of the things that you can put off for a little while that aren't necessarily so important, but making it road ready is gonna keep you out of that inspection lane, and that's just gonna make you happier overall. And once you lease on to your company, keep immaculate records. I'm talking down to every penny that you spend, all the way to the fuel mileage that you get every single trip. Every single number in between, all of them. Keep them all. The more data you have, the more knowledgeable you'll be in the trucking industry, and the much more profitably you're gonna be able to run your business. You need to learn all of these freight lanes, learn where freight is good, learn where it's bad. Learn if you take a super high paying load into a bad area and you come out of that area, is that better than taking 2 decent loads in a good area? You gotta know all of these things, and it takes time, and it takes knowing your numbers. I've talked about this a lot on the channel. The more you know your numbers, the better off you're going to be. So keep incredible records of everything, and in the end, it's gonna turn into easy street for you being a trucking owner-operator. But anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know when the next video is coming out. But as always, stay driven.